From WVLT, this is Local 8 News.
Police are searching for a missing toddler and her father while investigating the death of a woman. We've got the latest on the father's violent history.
All this wind and rain could cut leaf season in the Smokies short. Is that going to have an impact on tourism? A woman found dead in a Fountain City apartment, a 2-year-old girl missing from that apartment. Now the search is on for the man police believe kidnapped the girl. Good evening. Thanks for being here for Local 8 News. I'm Ted Hall.
And I'm Amanda Hara. Police are still on the scene on Quiet Way where the woman's body was found. And they've issued an Amber Alert for Brooklyn Enix. She's 38 pounds, 3 feet tall, with blondish brown hair. Police think she's with her father, Tyler Enix, in a 2013 black Impala with plate number G61-16U.
Local 8 News reporter Heather Burrian is following the developing story as this information keeps coming in. She's actually at the scene now outside the Quiet Way apartment where the woman's body was found. What have you learned since we last spoke, Heather?
Ted, we're learning that the medical examiner is there trying to find out why a woman was found dead inside her condo on Quiet Way, missing from that condo. 2-year-old Brooklyn Enix. We're going to show you the scene. It's still pretty active. We see police entering and exiting that condo. The area is still blocked off by caution tape. An Amber Alert has been issued for Brooklyn Enix. Let's show you a picture of her. She's a 2-year-old, 38 pounds with blonde hair. She's 3 feet tall, has blue eyes. Cops say they believe her father, Tyler Enix, took her. He's 36, 6'2", and bald. And they would not explain why Enix might have taken his daughter, but they're still looking for him. And he's supposedly driving a black Chevy Impala that belonged to that deceased woman. One neighbor said they haven't seen anyone enter or exit that condo in about a week, but he's seen Brooklyn Enix over there before, and he's concerned for her safety.
I just don't believe people ought to mess with children, and if they're abducted, then they ought to bring them right back, because that's the worst thing you can do is lose a kid like that.
Police have told me they're interviewing family and friends, and if you see anyone matching the description of Tyler or Brooklyn Enix or that black Chevy Impala, make sure you call 911 with any information. Reporting live in Fountain City, Heather Burrian, Local 8 News.
All right, Heather, thanks. Heather's been on the scene trying to gather as much information as possible. We've been doing the same thing back here in the newsroom. Ted, we've got more information about the suspect, and it turns out he's got a history of violence.
Yeah, man. In fact, Tyler Enix's father, we have learned, is the owner of Enix Jewelers in Halls. That gives you a little context to who we're talking about. But Tyler has a long criminal record. In August of 2004, Tyler Enix was arrested for assault, accused of slapping a woman, tried to push her out of a moving vehicle, but that charge was dismissed. He was convicted on his next charge, assault, 2 weeks later after a woman broke up with him. According to the records, he threw her in a car, hit her several times, then threw her out of the car. A false imprisonment charge went along with that. Based on his past, police believe, and the TBI believe, the little girl is in danger, so they've issued the Amber Alert. Enix and his 2-year-old Brooklyn be looking for that black 2013 Chevy Impala. They believe that the two could be in that vehicle. License plate G6116U. If you know anything, call 911 or call Knoxville Police. Amanda.
All right, Ted. Meanwhile, police say the Anderson County man accused of murdering Nikki Burgess didn't see his arrest coming. Officers knew that Caleb Cannon would be in court for a custody hearing this morning for the child he shared with Burgess. That's when they unsealed a grand jury indictment and arrested him on first-degree murder charges. Burgess was reported missing back in May of last year. Cannon was named a person of interest a month later in Anderson County. A grand jury indicted him last week. Our Nashville affiliate spoke to a woman who watched officers make that arrest early this morning.
Caleb Cannon was seated between two of the courtrooms when uniformed Metro police officers effectuated an arrest of Mr. Cannon.
Well, Burgess's remains have never been found. Witnesses saw 2 people carry something out of her house the day before she was reported missing. Police believe Cannon was one of them. The other has not been identified. We've had some wet, windy weather lately. Kind of feels like we're back in Seattle. That's causing a little bit of problems for leaves there in the Smokies. It knocked a lot of them off the trees and some of those higher elevations.
And leaves mean money around these parts. There's a chance the fall foliage season could be cut short because of this. More bad weather threatening to roll through in the next several days. Local 8 News reporter Stephen Powell went to the park today to check it out. So far, tourism season has been great as far as the leaves go, Stephen.
It's absolutely right. The weather has actually been great most of the season, and they've seen more tourists than usual, especially in September, which is usually a slow month. But they're worried more wind and storms could rob them of a couple of more weeks. It's a beautiful mix of colors.
They're vibrant. There's lots of reds and oranges.
The leaves and the colors are beautiful here.
Park Ranger Brent Everett says it's one of the prettiest years he's seen in a while.
That drives a lot of our visitation is the diversity of trees that we have here.
But heavy winds and rain that rolled through earlier this week have them a little worried.
We're always concerned about high wind events for several different reasons, but especially during the fall, we're concerned about them coming through and blowing all the leaves off the trees, which ends our fall color season early.
Everett tells me Wednesday morning's wind advisory was mostly in the parts of the park where leaves have already fallen. But in the lower elevations, like outside of Gatlinburg, the colors are really just starting to pop out.
It can start as early as late September and last all the way through November. So it really depends on how the weather progresses throughout.
Officials tell me the leaves can be pretty delicate. It doesn't take much to knock them off the tree. But there's more rain and wind forecasted for next week. Marcy Claude with the Gatlinburg Convention and Visitors Bureau says she's not worried.
This happens every year with the weather. It always gets rainy and it always gets windy and some do get knocked down, but it is still gorgeous and there's still plenty to see.
In fact, she says it's hard to find a hotel room in the city right now. The number of people booking rooms is up 11% from this time last year.
Our tax revenues, we've also seen an increase. Now, we don't have October numbers in, but August and September have looked really strong.
And she says weather has never slowed leaf tourism in the past.
If you want to get a room in Gatlinburg, yes, you need to plan in advance if you want to see the leaves change.
Now, Gatlinburg tells me October is their second busiest month because of the leaves. Now, if the weather does dodge the Smokies, the season could last another couple of weeks.
She was laughing at that question you must have asked, Stephen, about getting a hotel room.
It was laughable, exactly.
Yeah, did you say, hey, you got a room for me? No, indeed we don't. Right now, it looks like we're going to be getting a break from the rain Friday and Saturday, coming back on Sunday. So if you're worried maybe that stuff's going to mess up the leaves for you this weekend, it'll probably be a pretty good time, if not a busy time, to get out there.
You know, shelters do their best to make sure the pets go to good homes, but sometimes animals end up in the wrong hands anyways. The state hopes a new animal abuse registry will prevent people with a history of abuse from being around pets. Local 8 News reporter Brittany Nada shows us how it works.
Reed Fowler just settled into East Tennessee, and now he's looking to take home a new furry friend.
So far, I've just been in here, I've been introduced to some animals and filled out some applications.
When someone's adopting a pet, there are some typical questions the Humane Society of Tennessee asks.
Where you live, and if you've talked to the people that you live with, and what kind of support groups that you'd have for the animal, and just what kind of sacrifices you're willing to make before you adopt an animal.
But soon, Tennessee is taking the process one step further. Beginning in January, there will be an animal registry complete with names of people who've been convicted of committing a crime against an animal.
That will just be a next step in our process. We have a computer over at our adoption desk, and so they can immediately look it up while the people are still here filling out their application and just move on.
To make sure animals are going to a safe and loving home. The names will stay on the list for 2 years, and even more if there are multiple offenses.
So hopefully they're not coming in here to adopt, but if they do, we kind of have that where we can say, you know, unfortunately we're not going to be able to adopt you because of this reason.
The registry is open to the public, similar to a sex offender registry. Anyone can check to see if their animals are near someone who could harm them.
We're beginning to realize that they can suffer and feel pain just along the same lines as humans, at least comparably, so we have to protect them to somewhat of the same degree.
Report Nada, Local 8 News.
And so many cute babies in that video, too. Tennessee, by the way, the first state to start the animal abuse registry. So far, 8 other states have now considered following in our footsteps. Well, a Monroe County dad enjoyed taking pictures, as all parents do, for athletes and their families at games. But now he can't even take photos of his own daughter. We'll explain why.
A little later in sports, the countdown is on to Kentucky. What's Butch Jones saying as they're getting ready for the Cats?
Shrimp Feast is on at Captain D's.